Good afternoon or good morning to our friends on the West Coast. I'm Jonathan Jordan, the AVP of Sales and Retail Strategy at JM&A, joined today by Ian Hunter, our Vice President of Corporate Sales. Ian, good to be with you today.
Great to see you, Jonathan. Another great South Florida day. And yeah, good afternoon here on the East Coast and up to our friends out West. Good morning still.
Yeah, excited to chat with everybody today about what seems like was some days it seems like it was a month ago, and some days it seems like it was just yesterday. But last week's NADA show, what an event! We knew it would be big coming off New Orleans and the snowstorm and everything that happened there. We were back in Vegas. But it was, I think, bigger than we thought it could be. The dealers showed up, the OEMs showed up, the industry partners and vendors showed up, and it was just a whirlwind of an event, action packed all day, every day. And we just wanted to share some insights that we had and things that we're thinking about as we're getting ready for the rest of this year. But Ian, we'll jump in. We had a lot of conversations with a lot of dealers, and just want to chat about, like, what'd you hear? What were some of the big themes that you heard from our dealers?
Jonathan, no doubt on your early sentiment, I think the hotels were full, the convention halls were busy, the booths were great. It was certainly a great comeback from New Orleans and the weather event that was so unexpected for that part of the country. But yeah, it was great to see everybody again. What was interesting, Jonathan, and I don't think it was probably unexpected, but was, we saw obviously everything was AI and the booths were filled with technology. But what was interesting is we downloaded more as we got back and even speaking to dealers post the event, it was so much that this is still a people driven industry and how much relationships matter, the trust, the partnerships, and the collaborations that really make all of the technologies exist, grow and go. And, to me, it was neat to see that aspect of the business not be lost. And while there are so many things that are coming to make us more efficient, more effective, and just have better data, detail, and knowledge in the industry, it's the people that ultimately drive it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think some, maybe came into this event a little skeptical of kind of where we were heading. And, I want to dive into AI in a minute because you can't talk about NADA and not talk about that. But I walked away, overwhelmingly, convinced that our industry is 100% committed to human involvement, that our consumers are committed to that as well. And, we're going to use technology to enable that.
It's a resilient industry, as we know. Weather, technology, we got the best of the best in it at all aspects and classes, and we always try to find a way and do find a way to ultimately figure it out, as you know. But yeah, so there was certainly some themes, I would say. One thing you already touched on was certainly around AI, that buzzword. But what was neat was a little bit of shift from AI as kind of this theoretical, conceptual concept. And dealers and I believe vendors in the tech space themselves were talking more about the practicality of the AI and what is it ultimately doing. And Jonathan, you were seeing it not just in the sales function, but now you're seeing it in the F&I function. You're seeing it in the service space, and so it's really encompassing all aspects of the dealership. And as the industry moves forwards, I think there's just going to continue to be more and more of that. I think the dealers, as they moved around and as they were talking to us, what resonated most were the AI or the technology that was utilizing the AI that was solving specific problems. And we talk a lot about today. I know people are, hey, is it gonna take my job? Is it gonna take my role? But I think what we're finding is that it's really just making us more efficient. And these AI capabilities are really giving us the ability to shift away from some of the rudimentary, monotonous style task and allowing us to become better at the things where the human element is the most important. And so there's a lot of aspects where I think that's coming, JJ, but I also think, Jonathan, that it's going to be interesting because where people are implementing it and finding the most use today is when it's framed also around some of those things that the humans struggle with. When you talk about timing, consistency, good message delivery. And so when you think about the facets of the dealership that those three items are pertinent, you're seeing a lot of technology being able to step up and help. So certainly a concept of AI moving from concept to more of an execution phase and specific problem solving.
Yeah, I think we're really moving from, if we go back to last year's show, AI was certainly a big thing, but it was more of a buzzword, right? It was like everybody wanted to say they had AI. I think even, a lot of dealers wanted to start utilizing AI, but I think this year we really took a step back and, to your point, said, hey, what problem are we really trying to solve here? Are we just trying to check that box and say I've got AI? And I think as an industry, we realize that that's not the right path. That's not the right strategy. It's just like whether it's a new process or a new hire or anything, any problem you're trying to solve in the store. It's like, what's the root of this? What are we trying to improve? What are we trying to solve? And we're seeing AI, really being able to solve, some of those problems, but we're still super early. And I don't know that we even know the extent of what this is going to look like in a few years, and it's moving quickly. But it's something that we as an industry are getting better at. We're learning more about, and certainly think it's going to be a great tool.
Yeah, definitely agree. It's evident. It's in the stores now. Service appointment setting, making sure there's real time feedback and commitment to getting back to consumers as they express interest in vehicles and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see where it comes. But as you know, as we introduce any new types of technologies and capabilities, also come new problems and thoughts. And I think the other big topic we've certainly talked a lot about here, and then the dealers are top of mind, is compliance. There was good questions about compliance. I think, as you talk about FTC and the safeguards, you talk about data privacy. Certainly when you're introducing technologies, Jonathan, that was a big hot topic we heard a lot about as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a balance, right? We're introducing technology that can certainly help with some compliance task. I think about things like deal reviews, right? There's some great technology out there that can help with that, to make sure that things are being disclosed properly and we've got the right forms and signatures are in the right places. But then there's also some risk that it can create, as well, when we think about privacy and data and how that data is, being used. And I think one thing that's coming out of that, which has been really good, is this focus around not just data privacy and how important that is, but also the value of data and the importance of data. And I think we all know that what makes AI powerful and what makes it work is really good data. And we're hearing dealers start to talk about their data as not just a tool or not just something that they need to have, but a true asset to their business. And so we're seeing a lot of focus from dealers around really harnessing their data, making sure it's organized, making sure that they can really leverage it, not just for AI, but for other parts of their business as well.
Yeah, I smile because for a long time we've talked about big data, data lakes. There's all the vocabulary that certainly comes with it, but it's starting to mean, I think, much like AI, Jonathan, it's starting to mean more to the dealer body, to those around the industry. I think you said a couple key things. It's getting it centralized in a space that it can be used, and then it's also making sure that it's verified, right? Inaccurate data going out to support decision making is no better than not having the data to some degree of itself. So huge deal. And as you say that, I think, as I was thinking back to the show, a couple of the conversations that I was in, usually when you think data privacy, you would think, hey, this is an IT concern and you have roles that are specific to understanding that. It's an executive concern, and they understand as we start to share data or we start to keep more of our own data, it's tipping off radars and roles that probably didn't necessarily pique interest prior, but certainly being a hot topic. As you think back over the last couple of years, there's certainly been some large scenarios with groups and businesses that had to deal with it. And people have ultimately learned from that. And again, the resilience of the industry proves true and has moved on. But yeah, certainly an interesting topic as we continue to move forward with technology.
Yeah, I think internally, we've learned a tremendous amount about it over the last couple of years as well. Some of you may know we rolled out Gyde at the show this year, which is our new F&I selling technology, and it's all about really putting the right data and the right insights into the hands of F&I managers so they can make more intelligent decisions when they're selecting products, when they're building their menus, when they're deciding which content to use to help tell the story of the products. And it really makes it so much more powerful when you can put that all at somebody's fingertips. But it all starts with having the right data and having it organized and having it secured and bringing a lot of different data from a lot of sources together. But we're seeing the power of that, every day now with what we're doing with Gyde and other initiatives as well.
Yeah, certainly true. We talked a little bit about some similarities, some growth and evolution of topics that have existed over the last couple of years. But I think it's worth noting and talking about there were some notable shifts as well regarding some topics that had been real top of mind in the past that had a little bit of shift as we moved into this NADA. And, I think one of the most notable is certainly the EV sentiment, right? There's a lot of, I don't know if it's necessarily confusion, Jonathan, but it's just trying to figure out what is the right path forward. And you have different OEMs, some playing the hybrid game, some going all in on EVs. And now you've got the shift that you read about consistently throughout industry articles that they're turning off plants and moving them back to ICE vehicles and so forth. So I don't want to say there's not hype still around it. There's certainly a realistic approach that dealers are going to have to construe with. We saw a lot of numbers that came out of some of the industry events that we attended while we were there. Most notably to me was profitability on an EV from a new perspective was not near as what it could be on an ICE vehicle for the dealer body. However, what will be interesting is to see is as all of these vehicles that had a large lease volume coming off of the lot from an EV perspective come back into the market beginning this year, Jonathan, how will dealers kind of play into that? What products do they have in the F&I space? Are they evaluating and appraising and bringing the vehicles in at the right cost? So there's going to be a lot to come, but I think like anything with that opportunity comes possibility. And, can they recoup some of that profitability that maybe they didn't see on the front side of that new EV sale?
Yeah, I think it's a good call out. It's funny. I think one of the greatest things about our industry is how quickly we can pivot. But sometimes it's a little bit of a watch out. Like if you went to NADA 3 or 4 years ago, it wasn't AI, it was EVs, right? Everybody was talking about EVs. All the events were about EVs. It was this huge focus. And if you went to that event and you weren't in the industry, you might think like the whole industry is moving to nothing but EVs. And then if you walked into the show this year, it was, in some cases, it was almost like they didn't exist. It was like we've completely moved on. And so I think I'm probably in the middle somewhere, right? We've definitely shifted, and there's definitely going to be less EVs than there were a few years ago, but they are still out there, and there is still some consumer demand for them. And I think that's an opportunity for the dealers that can capitalize on that. And I think you brought up a really good point. There's a lot of leases coming back in over the next couple of years, and so there's going to be opportunities there. To sell cars and sell service contracts and service those cars and keep them on the road. So it's something that I think we should pay attention to.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to what vehicles should we be ordering, right? What is the right mix? I heard a really interesting discussion at an industry event while we were there, and it was about all the complexity around ordering of vehicles. And you think about it, the OEM obviously has vehicles that they are allocating to the dealer body. The dealer is trying to pick the right allocation for their geography, their consumer base. But then you also give the consumer this access online, Jonathan, where they can go in and pick a myriad of options and a myriad of ways that ultimately, and they go to call in and they say, hey, where does this vehicle exist? And, sometimes it's on the lot, sometimes it's not, sometimes not even in their state, or it just doesn't exist and it becomes an order. So I think between that, there's some dealer confusion as to what direction may that go when you talk about the optimization of inventory. I think as you also think about incentive structures, affordability is a big thing. I know we'll maybe get into that here in a minute, is worth probably peeling back a little bit as well. But what vehicles are going to be right, and what's the incentive structure as they move forward? Are the OEMs, I think when you look over the past several years and profitability was good, inventory was on a lower. So as volume starts to come back, and these OEMs are going to want to conquest and grow their market share, will we see leases come back on some of the ICE vehicles that were aggressive like we saw pre-pandemic? In addition, are we going to see some of the incentives come back from a rate perspective? As we know, interest rates, while they've come down, have still put a little bit of a pressure on affordability for kind of that mid-level consumer. That top-end consumer still seems to be transacting fairly easily, but that mid-credit score and that mid-level consumer certainly seems to be one we're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it's a huge focus, and that brings me to kind of the next thing that I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about. And there's continued focus on the erosion of some of the profits that we saw, through COVID and beyond. We saw big front end profitability, limited inventory, and we all know the reasons, kind of what led to that. But now we're starting to see some of those same pressures that we saw in the past. You alluded to some of them, a little bit earlier. And so there's this renewed focus, this renaissance almost on F&I performance and protecting that performance. And a lot of dealers really focused on, making sure that they've got the right processes, they've got the right product suite, they've got the right structures to really maximize, what's going on in the F&I office. And we had a lot of really good conversations with dealers, about that, about what their strategy is. And the great news is, dealers are showing up in a big way. We're seeing F&I performance continue to increase, even as, that front end performance is getting a lot of pressure and decreasing in a lot of places.
You're right.
As well.
We saw a lot of tailwind in the F&I PVR space, especially in the back half of 2025. It seems to be early in 26 showcasing the same type of profit parameters. And so that's great. I do agree. I think, if leasing potentially comes back a little bit greater, if there's incentives back, that value-based selling, Jonathan, that, quite candidly, we pride ourselves on, is a lot of our brand and value proposition here is helping those dealers from a profitability perspective. That value-based selling will be imminent and ultimately super important. I know over the last kind of 12 months, we've really revamped our core F&I skills for the business manager class. We're excited to roll that out this year. And that's really speaking to the foundation of that value-based selling. So it'll be interesting, but I think dealers are doubling down on the training, knowing that's coming, and those real smart ones have gotten out ahead of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. When it comes to that value-based selling, when it comes to everything we're hearing with AI and technology, it just kind of reemphasizes the importance of the human in the transaction.
Yeah.
And people want to connect with people. And, we're seeing that over and over and over as we roll out, as we saw through digital retail, and now we're seeing through AI and other technologies that are out there, that if you don't have the right people and the right processes, these technologies just aren't nearly as powerful. And so, we heard it from dealers over and over that they're very committed to their people, and they don't want to lose the human element. And the reason for that is that's what they're hearing from consumers. That's what consumers want. So we're really seeing technology as this enabler that's going to make the human so much more powerful and more efficient and more effective in communicating. But humans are very much still the face of it, still kind of what's driving performance in a dealership.
Spot on. It's there to inform and streamline technology, that is, but ultimately the human, as I mentioned early on, which seemed to resonate out of NADA too. So, Jonathan, as I look at the time here, I just say this is kind of our recap of NADA. We got a lot of insights, we got a lot of information. It's time to turn on the execution phase of 2026 and take all of this to action. So, as you think about, and we close out here today together, what's kind of top of mind for you?
Oh God, so much. And I wish we had a lot more time, because I could talk about NADA for hours, with everything that was going on. But, we are really focused on, as I said before, giving our dealers the right tools and the right technology so they can continue to drive performance and to make their teams as successful as possible. And we've been on this journey with Gyde over the last couple of years, and we're just starting to get it out there in the marketplace. But it's really all about how can we provide a better experience for dealers, a better experience for the F&I manager, and ultimately a better experience for the customer. And that's all through, taking our 40 years of experience, all the dealers' experience, putting all that data, all those insights together, and empowering the F&I manager to have a really rich conversation with a consumer about their financing, about F&I protection products, and we're really excited what that's going to mean for us and our industry and our dealers, and again, consumers. And Ian, I know we've got some big news on the OEM side of things as well that I want to make sure we don't miss.
Yeah, there's no doubt your retail strategy side's got the tech bundled up, but we're certainly very bullish and very excited. Our new strategic alliance with Stellantis, kind of NADA, was to come out in the launch of that. We're really excited to join that organization and walk with them through this next step as we launch FlexCare Drive to their dealer body as an opportunity to take advantage of some of those risk-based participation programs and add to their already strong FlexCare brand. When you think about that brand and a lot of what they announced, both at NADA and then pre-NADA, they got a lot of great models coming out. They really have been listening to their dealer body, and I think that sentiment is resonating as I spoke to some of the Stellantis dealers at the show and post. There was a lot of momentum, and so we were very excited to lock arms with them and launch the FlexCare Drive brand and bring that to the market here in 2026. So it's ready to go, but no different than any other year, Jonathan. We exist obviously with the passion to make our dealer partners more successful each and every day through process, people, technology, and how all that plays into the formula. We're here to be great partners along their side. So with that, it was great to spend a few minutes with you. Like you said, we could have gone on forever, JJ, but I'll let you run with it.
Yeah, always good. I know I'm super excited about this year and coming off the show and all the exciting things we have going on in our industry. Thank everybody for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to follow up with us on LinkedIn or through any other channel. If we can help you with anything, let us know. Or if you just want to chat about the industry, we'd love to talk about it. So thank you again. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you.